some really cool stuff, and we will be starting with Nomia going up against Deadlykittens to begin things. And we've already talked many times about Deadlykittens. We got to watch them a lot yesterday at the very end of the day. They're in a position where, unless something crazy happens, then they will not be qualifying for the top 8. But it gets to the point now where you're playing for pride, potentially, if they're not able to get that 1 in a million chance of being able to qualify through. And then on the other side, you've got a team like Nomia, who have likewise shown some great personality here as well.
I think that's a huge point. It's actually really kind of heartbreaking in this series. You know, they're both so easy to like teams here out of the non-league regions.
Easily,
both of these are like the most, you hang out like 2 minutes around them and you suddenly are like, you're my new team favorites. So like, it's just like everything about your squad. And so it is a little bit heartbreaking for me to watch these two go head to head, I guess, here today.
Nomia, I continue to fall in love with this morning. They were helping you, Calaris, troll me with the whole dropping bears apparently that happened on drop bears. They're not real. I believed it for like 20 minutes.
Excuse me, drop bears, and it is a real thing. I will have them confirmed later for you once again.
Yeah, so apparently you at home, just in case you want to be in on this inside joke that's so hilarious, there's these bears apparently in Australia that if you walk underneath the tree, they'll drop on top of your head and attack you after 10 o'clock at night, according to Fat94.
You have never had a trick moment more than this.
Let's be honest, he's the most innocent person in esports.
I was like, really? There's bears in Australia? Like, that's crazy. But no, that's not true. But yes, Nomia is a team that you just love. And even if you think about the points around it and how important it is for them to get this victory, it's still a great matchup between these two teams because they love team fighting. I expect this series to be explosive between these two.
I mean, even against MVP, they showed a bit of spirit. It was difficult for them going up against a team like that, and I think they realized that as well. We heard them in their comms at the last game, get 10, guys, you know, and they were having some fun with it. But going into this game, it must be a very different tale for them.
Oh yeah, for this game, I think Nomia, you know, they have to expect that they can win the entire series. I think not just Nomia, but both teams are going to be gunning for the 2-0, not just the 1-1, because they really want the 3 points. The 3 points will make a big difference here. If Nomia can get it, it solidifies their 4th place spot in the group. If Deadlykittens gets it, maybe if they can steal a win away from some of the bigger teams, they might still have a shot.
And that brings us on to our second team. It is Deadlykittens, indeed, and we saw a lot of them yesterday at the very end of the day. We got to kind of go through their journey with them as they took on very important teams themselves as well. And Dread, what stood out to you was their play on maps like Dragonshire and their ability to actually control a lot of the early to mid moments of the game.
Yeah, it's not so much, when you think of Dragonshire and a team really good at it, oftentimes it's the one that can rotate to be able to get ganks here and there that stagger, eventually get a Dragonite, and they win the game. But specifically what we saw out of Deadlykittens that I adored was just their macro rotation starting post 9 and 10, you know, after that secondary Dragonite phase, because they absolutely almost flawlessly abused the map. The problem was, the minute that their opponent looked towards any objective, even if Deadlykittens didn't have to fight for it, there were guys, we gotta go fight. They would instantly get baited into a fight, much like I compared it to like L5 versus MVP Black way back in the day. MVP Black was the team fight team, L5 was the macro, and when they went head to head, if MVP Black could bait them, L5 would struggle.
What stood out for the compositions when we were watching Deadlykittens for you yesterday?
For me, actually, on Towers of Doom, when they were playing against MVP Black, they went with this idea of judgment in the hunt. And what I liked about their engage is they were playing against a cleanse-based composition from MVP Black, and yet they did just enough layover between the two heroics to get kills multiple times. Now, if it wasn't MVP Black, that may have been a scenario or a composition that would have introduced enough chaos into the opposing team for Deadlykittens to walk away with a victory. However, they didn't do it, but still, I liked what they did when they pulled off the coordination and they kept their gas, or their pedal on the gas. Is that the right way to say that? The pedal on the gas.
That works. Yeah, that works. The foot on the gas also is that a thing. That's the thing as well.
It's the foot on the pedal, boys.
Foot on the pedal.
We're like 0 for 5 here.
That's why you're here, Dread. Thank you.
Too.
Yeah, listen. You have to have special ways to say things, man. You want to resonate with certain people.
I couldn't hear you. The drop bear hit the ground. What did you say?
As a trio, we got there in the end, all right?
I'm going
I didn't
home.
see the maps.
I'm done.
But I think it's Battlefield then
Dragon,
yes, for these two teams. So, I mean, there was even a moment yesterday, there was a tantalizing moment where Deadlykittens did draft on Cursed Hollow against MVP Black. Quite a risky and composition, which had kind of like that underlying tone of like, this isn't fully serious, but it did have serious implications, and MVP Black was playing very seriously against it because it could have snuck a bit of a win there, Fan.
Oh yeah, I mean, going into the draft for this game here, so it looks like we are starting off with the Dragonshire map. So Deadlykittens, like Dread was saying, they had an insane amount of just great map rotations. They got to a point where they were like 3 to 4 levels ahead. So gonna be looking to see if Deadlykittens kind of repeats the draft they had yesterday, or if they're going with something else.
Especially when looking at that last game as, on Dragonshire for Deadlykittens, they had a comp that had a very clear 1-4, and they abused that very, very well. I do wonder if we make the 1-4 a little less clear, not as straightforward, does Deadlykittens look as calculated, because the 1-4 of Dragonshire is the oldest, core strategy to the map. If suddenly we see Nomia mix anything up, I do wonder if Deadlykittens kind of falls apart.
Well, for now, we're looking at bans here. Uther, your boy, banned out once again. Seems to be a trend in this tournament. The opposing side will ban out Dahaka, so there we go. We will not have that top laner / rotator that can be a pain here on Dragonshire. Now, Nomia, what are they going to start their foundation with?
I mean, with the Dahaka removed, they commit to the Genji. Genji has been just an amazing hero in the entire tournament. I do not like Genji as much on Dragonshire as I do I don't know if I would say any other map, but majority of the maps purely based on the fact that he typically is like a better Zeratul-ish, at least for the rotations and how he plays, levels 1 through 9, those skirmish-focused parts of Dragonshire.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I personally like Genji on every single map. I think he's just so good. But the Genji first pick is interesting. I'm noticing a trend of first ban Uthers where different teams are actually going with different first picks. You see right here, Nomia with the first ban Uther went with the Genji. I know that Dignitas in the tournament, they like to ban the Uther and then just straight up first pick the Malfurion, which kind of makes sense when you think about it in that way. Support choke plus getting rid of Guardian of Ancient Kings. So pretty cool to see how the different teams are playing the draft out. The map also has to be taken into consideration, though.
Has there ever been a talent that has shut down so many possibilities, like Guardian of the Ancient Kings? I'm trying to think of one.
Cleanse.
I mean, yeah, but a non-generic across multiple heroes, just a single.
Give me a little bit. I think I'll be able to come up with something close, but yeah, Cleanse is definitely... Yeah, I'll come up with one.
Okay.
I can tell you the opposite of that would be like Sylvanas' original heroic, going even to, like the level 7 and still not being able to cross-compare as the superior talent in that tier, but not the other way around.
Yeah.
Li Ming and Karazim, though, here for Nomia. This is a rather bit of a shake-up, an interesting choice, heavy commitment now to just all-inning onto the team fights. Actually 0. Wave clear, Li Ming does kind of have it in optimal circumstances, but you can't really rely on it. Genji and Karazim are terrible in that department, so if Deadlykittens just over-rotates in the right after the secondary ban phase into really macro focus here for Dragonshire, I actually feel pretty comfortable for them in this game.
Passing over the Tyrael, is that a bit weird for you, Fan?
It is a little bit weird for me. It could be that they aren't as comfortable with the Tyrael. Tyrael on Dragonshire is interesting because he does not win top lane against most heroes. So if you end up laning him top, you have a losing matchup the majority of the time, which is not something you really want. Plus, the Monk pick, I talked about this yesterday, but the Anubrak Malfurion first 2 picks can easily transition into kind of a blow-up composition with the web wrap and the root underneath it, the potential Twilight Dream. Any follow-up becomes really deadly, very likely to 100-0 someone out of web wrap. So the Monk kind of helps mitigate that a little bit with Palm.
What are we thinking for the next ban here for Nomia? Looking at what DK has right now.
I mean, I'm terrified of wave clear if I'm Nomia right now. Like anything that allows them to control and dominate the map. My first thought would be, am I worried about the top lane? Because the one thing about Dragonshire is, yes, you want the 1, you want the 4, and as long as you end up winning one of those 2, you're going to be successful. But winning the 4 is obviously going to be better because that's 2 lanes versus the 1. But if you, worst case scenario, you can choose 1 hero and still be able to ensure that you at least have 33% of the map controlled, And so I definitely would like to see Nomia at least put more concern into their top lane matchup, because I can already tell you this, their 4-man is not going to win. They just don't have the wave clear. So commit to the 1, focus heavily on your solo matchup, so at least it's not terrible, with the macro of Dragonshire.
What top laners can I jump out for you right now? Because with Nomia, I keep thinking about them and they always move into Ragnaros, but I'm kind of over the Ragnaros train here.
I agree. I think about everybody is, at least from the analytical side.
So if they move into Ragnaros, one, I'm a bit fearful for them because I don't feel like he wins one-on-ones anymore.
25.
25%.
Yeah, look at that, 25% win rate right now.
So sad.
Only time he's won with was with Black, I believe, but still.
I think he's won 2 maps.
Yeah.
Actually, there was an anomaly yesterday.
Yeah,
but-
2 maps.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Grey Mane out of the way, that's one less thing Leoric has to worry about. I think that's a pretty good top laner. Oh, but we see the Tassadar Vala out of Deadlykittens. It's a really strong rotation for them as well. You know, you said they were winning the 4-man before, and now I think they're really winning the 4-man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going into the series. I thought Nomia is the better team just across the board. But watching what Deadlykittens did yesterday on that map and where they are right now, I don't see 2 picks where I think Nomia can kind of recover with this type of draft. It just was whether or not that difference, you know, can make up for the skill gap here between these 2 teams. I just feel like if Deadlykittens is patient and never gets baited into those fights, like I said, they're going to body this game.
I mean, people we've seen a few times now Li Ming actually picked into an Uberak, and people, I guess, are just saying, well, our skill can potentially trump theirs, so let's see how that's going to end up working.
I mean, the only tank that I immediately start thinking about here is Johanna, possibly, but I don't think it does enough overall. But at least get some lockdown and maybe off of Blessed Shield, you can get Genji in there, get some damage in. But it's going to be Leoric and Stitches as a pickup. Leoric for that top lane and Stitches for the rotations.
Looks like it. I mean,
Both your faces are like, eh.
I've said this before, but I'm personally really not a fan of Stitches without any follow-up. And right now they have nothing to follow up a hook. You get a hook, the Vala walks away. You get a hook, the freaking mouth walks away. Like, it's just, is that really what you want?
There's
Gorge into 7-sided.
There you go. That's true.
Hook, Gorge, 7-sided. Used to be a thing.
That's why I love casting with you, right there. You bring in the ideas that could work. You could change the meta.
That's not an
your
idea.
sentence
People
was
ran it
totally
before.
accurate until you used the words "that works." You bring up the ideas, Calaris.
Dread, don't listen to him.
All right,
Nailed it.
then. All right.
The follow-up,
play.
Deadlykittens transitioning into the Sonya was a really nice touch on top of it. By having the Sonya to be able to enable, you've got a really nice engager with the Anubarak. Sonya's going to not only have a solid matchup into the Leoric, it's going to complement their composition with the Tassadar. I walked into this expecting to bank on voting for Nomia twice, and I have the hardest time in the world doing that now.
All right, talk to me fully about these compositions then, how they match up against each other, fam.
I mean, the bottom lane for Deadlykittens is a lot better. I do think that there's a chance for Nomia because in the Leoric versus Sonya matchup, I would give that over to Leoric, maybe 60-40. There is counterplay available on the Sonya side, but you have to play extremely clean. There's a lot of wiggling involved. You have to dodge the W, and it's really hard to counterplay if you want to win that 1v1.
Let's start with predictions. Tim, starting with you.
I'm actually a little bit here with Dread. I was originally going to go with Nomia for 2-0 today, but Deadlykittens draft looking really great here for Dragonshire. I'm going to pick them here in game number 1.
All right, Dread.
As long as Genji doesn't snowball,
Yes.
and Deadlykittens in the mid game doesn't get baited into fighting over things they don't have to, a very confident win for Deadlykittens.
Yeah, looking at the drafts here, I would say the win condition for Nomia is through the Sonya. They have a slightly favorable top lane. They have really high mobility gank heroes. They need to recognize that they need to kill the Sonya over and over. That's like the only way they can get the lead to win. But that's not enough for me. I'm going to go with Deadlykittens.
All right, well, chat here seems to be doing very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Now at the Analyst Concave. Let's see what the actual chat thinks.
Wow.
And come on, chat. You've actually disappointed us here.
I don't know, I'm more
That's pretty
impressed.
good. I'm more impressed
I
with
don't
this
know.
one.
I was
yeah.
impressed yesterday that the entire chat somehow got onto one idea and ran away with it. That was really
The
impressive.
hive mind was real.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that actually occurred.
It was impressive. Well, there we go. That is game number 1's draft in the bag, but it's not the game just yet. We're going to head over to Caldor and Jay How to bring you all the action.
Well, welcome into our first match of the day where fan favorites Deadlykittens are going to be taking on ANZ's Nomia. I am joined here with Caldor. Caldor, starting things off with a bang today.
Yeah, we definitely are, and it's going to be an interesting match for the reasons already mentioned by the panel. Interesting drafts here, especially from the Australian team. To the left side with Arcana on Genji, John on Li Ming, Vanilla on Karazim. We have Leoric played by Fat94 and Robodova on the Stitches.
And on the right side in red is going to be Deadlykittens with Myrrh on Anubarak. Stronger will be playing Malfurion. NSJ on Tassadar. Zay's going to be on that Vala with Inavir, manning that top lane on Sonya.
I'm really interested to see how much of an impact Stitches is going to have in this game with the hooks. We've already heard from our panel that one of the problems that we're currently seeing on the side of Nomia is that a follow-up is going to be very difficult for them, especially in the early stage of the game when you don't have the Leoric with you, so locking a target down is not going to be easy. Traditionally, you run the Stitches with either a stun or a root afterwards, at least the burst damage, and currently they're lacking that. So let's find out how much Robadoba can actually do here with this hero.
I think that is definitely one of the key questions on what they can do. But as you can see, Deadlykittens already playing a little bit more passive. Mur not even willing to try and engage there, just dropping back with the burrow, recognizing that they have the superior, as the analysts were telling, the superior 4-man. And I think that is something they're going to have to rely on heavily as Mur interrupts the rotations instantly here across the middle.
Now, let's also mention something that we're currently seeing in regards to the talents. Up to the top lane, Leoric went into block as his level 1 talent. We had so far 2 very distinct builds that we've seen in the tournament. Either you are trying to spec a bit more into the Drain Hope, which allows you to have a huge impact in the team fights later on, or we've seen from Fnatic and other teams a Royal Focus build with Lingering Apparition on level 7, which allows you to have a much better impact on the wave clear. And this is something that Nomia struggles a bit more with this draft, so we could see them adjust there, but of course going up against the Sonya, the block on level 1 helps you a lot to win that top lane.
One of the things I think I'd like to see here, and I actually really like the position of NSJ and Stronger, is that they're positioning themselves because they know that they can take some of that damage, and they're trying to block some of the skill shots in there so they can get the advantage on that wave clear and then try and fight over the shrine. So they've done a good job positioning themselves, and now you see the minions, they'll come up, eat a little bit of that ammo. So I actually really like the positioning right now of Deadlykittens in this rotation between bottom and mid.
The Kittens have definitely a very strong draft, especially for that 4-man. When we're looking at the Vala supported by 2 supports, we've seen already from the Chinese teams and the Koreans how strong that can be. And Zay's on the Vala now. He has absolutely no fear. He knows that he can really toe the line here, that we have Tacit and Malfurion to always back him up. And this is really working out for them at the bottom of the map.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. And the constantly missed hooks and then the missed skill shot as Tassadar just kind of shifts away, says you can't hit me if you can't see me.
Now, one of the things that we also see in the minimap while we have this battle at the bot lane is that Genji actually started to transition occasionally to the top lane to put pressure onto Sonya, and that makes it even easier for Fat94 to hold the control of the shrine up to the top. And in addition to that, he also picked Hardened Bones. So for him right now, it's all about winning that solo lane, since they realize they have a massive amount of trouble at the bot lane. But John is falling here. First blood for the Kittens as Li Ming is taken out.
Robadoba walked over so he could hit E and heal up a little bit, but on that backside, Genji doing a little bit of work, taking down the Malfurion. So we have a 1-for-1 trade here in the bottom lane to get things started.
Yeah, Arcana here on the Genji are also just proccing completely into the Swift Strike, playing the ping pong build that we've already mentioned several times over the course of the tournament. Genji is an interesting character. You have a couple of different builds that you can run with, and especially on the smaller maps, like for example Tomb of the Spider Queen, we've seen a focus on more mobility, especially with the Cyber Agility on level 1. But right now that ping pong build is really becoming extremely popular, and this is exactly what Genji is good at. Jumping into that backliner, getting that kill, but they're losing structures, Jayhow, and that is a problem since Deadlykittens are starting to take a slight leading experience.
They are, and what I'd like to see out of Deadlykittens right now is the priority focus on this well. You don't necessarily have to push into the fort, and one thing that you can do is once you clear out this bottom lane and get some control, it's really hard to push all the way into the fort, especially if Genji tries to flank. So what you can do is rotate up to the middle and try and put some pressure like you're doing on the bottom lane, except put it on the middle lane because you have the quicker retreat point, and as I say that, Genji rotates down. But you get more value out of that than a potential 4 or 5 minute DK. So controlling that is a little bit better as Robadoba going down.
Yeah, unfortunately body blocked by a teammate here even. I also want to highlight another talent that puts a bit of a different spin on things as the Kittens take 2 shrines and have a chance to get the first Dragonite. We have Carla's Light taken on Tacita on level 4. So going away from the extra life leash that you can achieve with the shields and instead just trying to provide some extra armor against potential burst damage.
Zay is continuing to put pressure on this bottom lane. Deadlykittens has cleared out not only the gate, but the walls as well. As we can see, Sonya trying to do her best to clear this lane, get some type of body blocking, but Fat94 capturing the top shrine.
They really have a lot of trouble at that bot lane. Oh, nice hook this time, but here's the problem. Right away, Robodoba with a good hook against Vala, but no follow-up, no Malfurion roots, no Uther stuns, and not enough burst damage to drop a target, so Vala can simply vault out and get away. So a good hook has absolutely no impact here until you can completely isolate the target.
I think that's going to be the story of the game until we get to 10, as Kalaris was talking about. You're going to have to hope for that Gorge, potentially. I mean, it might even just be Putrid Bile, but we might see that hook Gorge, and that's going to be their best opportunity to follow up, because as you just said, there is none. And speaking of roots, Robodoba being caught again.
Yeah, once again, we have Mia also moving in with a stun attempt. Talking, by the way, about the Stitches, I personally wouldn't go into Gorge here. I would definitely go with Putrid Bile. If you try to use Stitches with Gorge, then me personally, I like to have at least a Fall Stat for a Mighty Gust or something else that just allows you to isolate the target even more. Especially when you have someone like Mia on the Anubarak who can simply dive after Stitches, exactly, and help out the Gorge target. So I think in this particular scenario, Putrid Bile would give you a much better edge.
Well, quickly approaching level 10 for both of these teams. Deadlykittens with a slight experience lead from that extra kill and this bottom lane pressure. Starting to do work as Sonya capturing the top shrine. We do have both of these captured. You got to wonder if Deadlykittens hits 10 here soon. Will they try and make an aggressive play to capture the first Dragon Knight of the game?
Leoric is still protecting the mid lane here, and so far we have a 4-man at the bottom. Nomia in this entire game has been very defensive. They are trying to survive until they hit 10 to gain some momentum here, but the Kittens hit the heroic ability a bit faster, have them taken already. Only a Nubarak, not showing the talent yet. Arcana still trying to interrupt to give Leoric time to channel the shrine at the top, but Leoric doesn't even make that move. Fat94 just simply lets it go.
An interesting approach, one that I'm not a big fan of, but they're letting it go. This bottom 3-man push, they're just trying to soak that experience. They wanted to get 10, I can understand that, but you can still grab it and then go back and soak after that. The questionable play there, but Zay is taking a bit of damage. Strafe is out, Caldor.
They're going straight for Vala, though, and Vala is in trouble, and that's the kill right there. She's down. Good kill for Nomia. 2 kills against 2, and it's a 5 versus 4 on the map with Leoric moving in, starting to drain Malfurion. In comes the immediate Entomb, and they can get another kill as Malfurion falls.
Just not enough follow-up, not enough support there. The Dragon Knight was middle, and Sonya was top, so that was a 3 versus 5-4 at one point. And things working out for Nomia there to turn the tides just a little bit.
Now, we have already talked on the panel a bit about the heroic choice possibilities on the side of Kharazim, and we see the 7-sided strike. And the isolation ideas that we have here are not only that Stitches can hit that hook and you can attempt to hit a good 7-sided strike, but it's more so about Leoric now being able to drop the Entomb and isolate a target completely. If you hit that 7-sided and then at the same time you have a Li Ming with a disintegrate, adding the additional damage, you have good chances of taking a target down, but you have to really work on that isolation. And so far, Nomia had a very big focus on taking down Vala. Once she falls, they have a much better stance in those team fights.
Yeah, that's a good bit of damage going down as Anubarak missing both stuns there on Leoric, as Leoric just turns right around and says, hello, Beetle. But the top lane, gonna have camps pushing here for both teams. We're gonna see how quickly these get cleared out.
I also want to note something that I find personally really interesting. We have currently Locust Swarm taken on the side of Anubarak, not going into the Cocoon. And considering that we're currently looking at a double support behind this, I think this is an interesting adjustment that the Kittens make. Normally what we are seeing right now is teams trying to go into that backline and then either cocooning the healer or one of the tanks and trying to force the team fight. It's even good for isolations on the map to just force a specific target. I would have liked that. And Tomb, as the fight goes on here up to the top, and already we have the Locust Swarm being used. Ice Block on Malfurion. They're trying to escape here, but Nomia with the first kill in the fight.
He's going down. Murr is taking a lot of damage there as well, but we see the reset starting to come in as we see Tassadar fall, and the hook is going to bring Murr back, and that is a 3-man down there on the side of Deadlykittens.
The coordination on Nomia is just better in this case. We see a great Entomb coming from Leoric. Stitches with a Putrid Bile as well, just adding a bit more damage, going really deep, and they are struggling too much. The biggest problem, though, is that we have Sonya all the way at the bottom. Granted, Genji comes in late, but he is joining the fight, and Sonya is just nowhere to be seen, so a very disadvantageous fight from the perspective of the Kittens.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's actually twice they've done it now. They pushed in the bottom bottom lane the first time right after 10, and then they pushed in the top lane again with their team split, knowing that Nomia was going to have that strong defense. So I think Deadlykittens is making all the right plays until it comes to that really aggressive. At that point, you've got to make a decision. I think right now, if they just regroup, they just go back to playing their strengths.
And Nomia presents themselves currently like a bunch of Australian drop bears just simply dropping on the Kittens and taking them apart. This is what Trixler in particular is really afraid of. I mean, those savage drop bears are going full feeding frenzy right now.
This is a trade that favors Nomia. We talk a lot about the bottom lane being a bit more favorable. Now, not only are they pushing the bottom lane, which has 3 potential camps for the late game, but they also have a night camp pushing with them. And they are just ripping through this fort. And the rotation on the side of Deadlykittens is simply to walk down. They're going to try and flank here, see if they can catch somebody out.
I also want to highlight that we have, in terms of level 13 talents, a couple of cool choices here as well. We have on the side of Fat94, despite him not going for the level 1 hopelessness, there's still the Drain Hope, which the extra damage is going to come into play. And this is something that they're going to try and use with the Entomb coming out. We also have Stitches with a focus on the Slam build that gives him, of course, first of all, a lot more wave clear overall, which was one of the weaknesses that Drad highlighted a little bit earlier. This is one of the ways how they're trying to get around this. And at the same time, it also provides more damage within the team fight. It's really then up to Charism to keep him alive here, so they need to be a bit cautious with this, but so far, the team fight coordination has been on point.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we talked a lot about with Nomia in particular, but this time, Sonya's starting to come around the back. If you look at the minute, she's starting to flank around as Mur goes in on her Nubrek, and the heroics are popping. Strafe is out, and they're doing the damage.
Sonya immediately moving in here once again, and Mia is looking for a potential fight and maybe the stun, but we have Nomia moving away. Stitches with a Putrid Bile covering the retreat. And in this case, it's only an exchange of heroic abilities that we see between the two teams.
Yeah, that disengage with the Putrid Bile, not too shabby to try and walk away from that. The hook on Zaze, though, he's going to vault away the cleanse on top of him, but now we have the Force Wall, and John instantly gets blown up, and now Fat94 starting to Wraith walk away, but take a look at Arcana in there.
Arcana with the Dragon Blade is trying to go in, but Genji falling as well. It's the double kill for the Kittens as Nomia is on the move back. Here comes the Force Wall, and Robot Oba is completely isolated as Mia jumps in, stuns him out, and this is the 3rd and 4th kill as Leoric falls as well.
They are going in and instantly putting pressure onto this middle lane. The fort will fall. Tassadar moving up to the top shrine. This is going to be DK number 2 in just a moment here for Deadlykittens.
The Kittens with a really good team fight here. The early kill against Li Ming, enabling them to move completely into the opponent. Vala, for a moment, in a bit of trouble, moving out and then delivering the damage, and this leads to the Dragon Knight. So the Kittens gaining a lot of momentum, taking the lead in experience now as well, as they move in to potentially take the first keep of the game.
Caldor, you talked about it. We know how it's been displayed in the past. The minute you see the hook go in and you have somebody like a Nubarek, you just simply turn around and engage on that target. The Vault, the Cleanse was perfect, the Force Wall, but that is what we were talking about. With no CC follow-up on the side of Nomia, you now just hook somebody, hope to kill them, and if you don't, you're probably going to have that same answer in return.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And the one thing that worries me a little bit is that considering the draft, I would say Deadlykittens had a weaker early game than we expected, and Nomia did very well there. So they're going to bring this into a prolonged game, and this is when the level 20 talents are going to have a massive impact once again. We're talking about Leoric here, for example. We're talking about Genji. So Nomia definitely, in a long game, has the tools here. For now, though, they need to focus on the defense, and they find themselves behind. So the Kittens need to try and capitalize on the advantage that they have now, attempt to dominate the map, and maybe steal a few of the camps away. But the Dragon Knight itself does not look like he's getting too much here.
Yeah, it's about to be timed out, but instead it gets taken down. Good roots, but the Entomb is there. We're going to see if we have the counter-engage. Innovator starting to go in as the cleanse is on and the whirlwind going down. And you can see John on the bottom just throwing out those spells from Li Ming. Not able to secure the kill, but oh so close to getting that first reset.
Tassadar wasn't even here. He came in very, very late. He was caught in between the top and the mid lane and rotated down then. one of the reasons why Nomia is moving away now, and the Kittens, they're just running with this advantage. They're starting to steal camps, put the pressure onto the bot lane. But here comes the hook once again. The problem still that there's no isolation, but a lot of the heroics have already been used earlier by the Kittens. They need to be careful here.
They do have to be careful. The good thing is they have the siege giants. They need to slow siege this, but Li Ming is on the other side. You don't want to overcommit to this. You have the full level and a half lead. There's no need to be overly aggressive. When we see Arcaner going in, he's going to jump right back out.
No fear.
Yeah, that's a little scary, but he's okay. No Twilight Dream there, but we're going to see the play on the night camps potentially. Again, Deadlykittens doesn't have to really do anything except play the lanes and try and play that 20-tier advantage, which will be here before they know it.
I just have to ask if Stitches is really the choice here. I mean, don't get me wrong, Robert Dover has an impact with this ult. The slam build is delivering damage, but the big question here is, could you not have taken another tank that provides a little bit more to this composition? Because we have seen that his hooks don't have the impact. He lands them, but the problem is the follow-up is just not enough to drop a target or isolate it. And that is something that gives Nomia quite a bit of trouble here. He has a fair amount of self-sustain, though, in these fights. But now the whole message is really all about the level 20 talent. The Kittens realize if we get the 20, we have a massive lead for a minute or two, and that should lead into another Dragon Knight that we can then use to take down one of the keeps at least.
They're in a great position. They just have to slow play this. I mean, if they get the Dragon Knight around, say, the 17-minute mark, if Nomia backs off of that threat of the level 20, then the DK can get keep. I don't know if it's late enough that you can end game unless you get a pick or two. So Deadlykittens, they need to just play a controlled game, start to gain map control. Get that 20, gain map control with the with the DK. As you can see, they want no part of anything there between a hook and an into.
The spray game is on point. I like the pew pew. I love it. I use the same spray. It's amazing. But yeah, you're right. The level 20 and the potential pressure that the Kittens can now build up to get a Dragon Knight and maybe go through a keep could result in them ending if they get a kill or two here. So that is the big risk. So Nomia, they have no global. They need to think, okay, can we play around this? Arcana getting away, barely. If he gets caught here, that would be the worst case scenario. And they're just trying to buy time at this point. It would be ideal for them to hit the 20 as well. If they can, let's say, for example, hit 20, when the Kittens get the Dragon Knight, that would at least help them with the defense itself. But now the Kittens with the Storm Talons already available.
It's not too bad because you've got Leoric with the Drain Hope. I'm not sure why they're not capping this just yet.
I guess they're hoping to trap. It looks like they're just sitting in the middle, seeing if someone is trying to move in. Maybe Genji just overextending a bit with an attempt to interrupt and buy more time. If that happens, they can jump on him and take him down. But for now, they are just taking this slow. They have a lot of time with the Dragon Knight. There's no need to rush in, so they take away the waves on the bot lane first to make sure that they're pushing with their own minions. And in the meantime, we have Leoric at the top, we have Genji in the middle. The entire idea of Nomia right now is get experience, get 20, do your best so that you can fight on even talents against the Dragon Knight.
Oh, that force wall just missing, but the roots are going down. That is Stitches, however, as another force wall is there already. The hook just misses, but the keep starting to fall. And this Dragon Knight still at about 75% health. They might try and posture up on the core here.
They're definitely trying to. There's no 20 just yet for Nomia. Stitches is down. Malfurion with a silence takes him on. We already have Enavi on the Dragon Knight, still on the core. Here comes a quick punt, but a good move on the map. Force him in once again. The Dragon Knight is about to fall. This is going to be tricky to end.
The shields are down, so we're starting to have core damage, and they have the tools to be able to put it on there. Vanilla, however, is starting to put pressure on Zace, forcing them up down to 60%, down to 50%, and they are still going.
They're trying to go for the Vala, but in the meantime, Sonya is completely going ham with the core. Vala is finally falling, but this is not going to be enough. 20%, the second kill, but Sonya still going crazy, and this is game as we see the Kittens win map number 1.
This is their map, Caldor. Yesterday, they had a little bit of slip-up late game, but they are showing they know how to control this game, and they know how to win this day. I am super impressed. Deadlykittens, outside of like 2 minor slip-ups, those are easy fixes. They dominated that game.
It was definitely a great performance by the Kittens, but I think Nomia is very disappointed at this moment because especially when we're looking at the end of the game, without Stitches falling, they have a very good shot at defending against the Dragon Knight here. So Stitches dying and them not relying on another tank at the front took a lot away from what they could do here. So they came into this saying, guys, we need to win this. we have to take this game right now, but all of a sudden, the Kittens are the one in the lead.
It is. I'm really excited to hear what our concave, our council, or whatever we're calling it today, it has to say about this, because this has huge implications on the rest of the next 2 days.
Today it's the Analysis Parliament as we do continue things down the line here. 1-0 for Deadlykittens, making it look good there on Dragonshire. Wasn't without its blips though, Dread.
Yeah, it definitely was not as clean as we saw yesterday. A lot of the brilliant highlights I had of yesterday, they started, it was the same thing, getting baited in fights that they didn't necessarily need to take, but this time, rather than like entire minutes of good rotations coming out of Deadlykittens, it lasted like 30 seconds and they're like, all right, back to the fight. You know, it worked out for them in the end, but I think a lot of it was just mainly compositional advantage than it was actually out-rotating and outplaying Nomia.
Seemed overall that Nomia's composition didn't really work out there.
It did pretty well in the early stages, better than I thought it would, especially the Genji. I want to call out there. Genji sitting in the middle. Arcaner, I believe, is playing there. Rotated the top constantly to help Leoric help with that Sonya matchup, and Leoric did a little bit better than expected. Not as dominant as I would have liked to see with those games coming in, but still, Genji being pretty devastating. They got a couple of picks, and there was moments where Deadlykittens overstayed, and Nomia went, and they got a couple of kills, and were in a spot where I believe they were 7-2 at one point. So if they would have had some kind of wave clear and some kind of push overall, they could have taken that momentum and ran.
Well, let's take a look at one of the moments from that game. Fan, if you could lead us in.
Yeah, so we have a replay here of one of the mid-game fights, and this really tells the story of the team composition. So if we could pause right here. Okay, so right there we saw Nomia, they got a hook on a priority target. They got the hook on the Vala in a Vala composition. If you compare this to like a team like Dignitas, if they get the hook, it's game, or the fight is over, right? But look at the Vala, she just vaults out, and she can vault out because you have nothing to stop her from doing so. They turn the fight around, they start focusing you, their Vala is safe in their backline once again, and from that point onward, the fight just get crushed. And I want you to look at the Monk right here. He still has his 7-sided, and he still has it because he was over here when Stitches got the hook, just a little bit away. If that was a Malfurion, could have landed the root, instantly dead, you know? But since they don't have any follow-up to the hook, they don't have any way of using their 7-sided. You see, he never has a good chance to use it. This fight keeps going on, keeps going on. I think Nomia overextends a little bit more here. As soon as you lose a member with the Stitches composition, you just need to get out. I've said that multiple times, and it seems like some of the regions are struggling with that. They overextend, lose 2 more picks here. And this fight started level 15 to level 15 with Nomia getting a hook on the Vala in a Vala composition.
Yeah.
And that's the best fight they could have gotten, and it went that way. And that's just kind of speaks to the compositional problem. The easiest way I can explain it is like in a rock, paper, scissors game. So I tell you, hey, I'm going to go paper here. And you say, I'm going to go rock. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm going paper. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to go rock. Yeah. So in games like these, and one where like Tempo Storm played against Soul Torturers, where there's nothing they could do to deal with the Cassia, it's just... You make the game so hard for yourself in draft, you know?
I don't know, Fan. I like my odds in